The War of 1812 is often called America's Forgotten War or the Second War of Independence. It was a strange, messy, and fascinating conflict where nobody really won in terms of territory, but it changed the destiny of North America forever. Here is the epic story of how it started, the chaos in between, and how it ended with a victory for a general who didn't even know the war was over. The War of 1812, a story of pride, fire, and luck won. The breaking point. Why did it start? In the early 1800s, Great Britain was locked in a life-or-death struggle with Napoleon Bonaparte of France. The United States was caught in the middle. Asterisk impressment kidnapping sailors. The British Royal Navy was short on men, so they began stopping American merchant ships and kidnapping sailors, claiming they were British deserters. Asterisk trade restrictions. Britain blocked the U.S. from trading with France. Asterisk trouble on the frontier. The U.S. suspected the British in Canada were arming Native American tribes led by the great warrior Tecumseh to attack American settlers moving west. In June 1812, President James Madison finally signed a declaration of war. Interestingly, the British had actually agreed to stop the trade restrictions just days before, but news traveled so slowly across the Atlantic that the war started anyway. 2. The Canada ambition. The Americans thought taking Canada would be a mere matter of marching. They expected the Canadians to welcome them as liberators from British rule. Asterisk the reality check. They were wrong. The Canadians, British regulars, and Native American allies fought back fiercely. The U.S. launched several invasions of Canada, and almost all of them were embarrassing failures. Asterisk the lake victories. While the land war was tough, the U.S. had surprising success on the Great Lakes. Captain Oliver Hazard Perry famously reported, "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." After a massive naval battle on Lake Erie, 3/18/14, Washington, D.C. in flames. By 1814, Napoleon was defeated in Europe, allowing Britain to send its full military might to America. They decided to strike at the heart of the U.S. Asterisk the burning of the White House. British troops marched into Washington, D.C., forcing President Madison to flee. They ate the dinner that had been prepared for the president and then set fire to the White House, the Capitol, and other government buildings. Asterisk the divine intervention. A freak hurricane and a tornado hit the city the very next day, putting out the fires and killing more British soldiers than the American resistance did. And the British retreated, shaken by the storm. 4. The Star-Spangled Banner. After burning D.C., the British turned toward Baltimore. To take the city, they had to destroy Fort McHenry. Asterisk for 25 hours, the British Navy pounded the fort with rockets and shells. Asterisk an American lawyer named Francis Scott Key, watching from a nearby ship, saw that the American flag was still flying the next morning. This inspired him to write a poem that later became the U.S. national anthem. 5. The war that ended before its biggest battle. By late 1814, both sides were exhausted. They signed the Treaty of Ghent in Belgium on December 24, 1814. The treaty essentially said, "Let's just stop fighting and go back to how things were. No land changed hands." But there was a catch. News of the treaty took weeks to reach the U.S. Asterisk the Battle of New Orleans, January 1815, unaware that the war was officially over. The British launched a massive attack on New Orleans. Asterisk Andrew Jackson's stand. General Andrew Jackson, leading a ragtag army of frontiersmen, pirates, and free black soldiers, crushed the British. It was the greatest American victory of the war, because the news of this victory reached the American public at the same time as the news of the peace treaty. Americans felt like they had won the war. The legacy, who actually won, aside the result. United States gained massive national pride and international respect. It proved the U.S. was here to stay. Great Britain stopped the American threat to Canada and could finally focus on its global empire. Canada. This war is the birth of Canadian identity. It united French and English Canadians against a common enemy. Native Americans, the true losers. Tecumseh's death and the British retreat meant they lost their last hope of stopping American expansion into their lands. Conclusion. The War of 1812 was a war of misunderstandings. It started after the causes had been settled, and the biggest battle was fought after the peace treaty was signed. Yet, it gave America its anthem. Its iconic White House rebuilt and painted white to hide the fire damage, and a new sense of destiny. Would you like to know more about the old Ironside ship or the heroic role of Dolly Madison during the burning of Washington?